Iran issues yet another stern warning to the United States, as tensions between Tehran and Washington remain high. Tehran draws a fresh red line against any possible American ground intervention inside Iranian territory. Iran warns that if US troops enter the country, they face a strong military response. The warning comes as the wider conflict puts military pressure on both sides and keeps the possibility of further escalation alive. The warning comes from Brigadier General Ali Jahanshahi, the commander of Iran's Army Ground Forces. Jahanshahi says Iranian forces remain fully prepared to respond to any attempt by foreign troops to enter the country. His message to Washington is blunt. If American military personnel set foot inside Iran, Tehran says, we will cut them off. Iranian ground forces also remain on full alert along the country's borders. Jahanshahi says Iranian forces closely monitor potential threats and maintain combat readiness along the country's frontiers. Tehran makes it clear that any enemy action receives what it calls a firm and deterrent response. The warning gains significance as questions remain over the possibility of the conflict expanding beyond air and missile strikes. Iran effectively warns Washington that a ground operation crosses a major red line. But while Iran hardens its military posture, diplomatic communication with the United States remains open behind the scenes. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says Tehran does not hold direct negotiations with Washington at present. Instead, messages pass through intermediaries. Several countries try to create the conditions for another round of talks, but Tehran says direct negotiations cannot resume until Washington addresses what Iran describes as violations of the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding. Araghchi also says Iran expects compensation over what Tehran describes as those violations. Iran therefore keeps the diplomatic channel open, but attaches conditions to any direct engagement with Washington. The situation presents two very different tracks. Tehran prepares its military for a possible confrontation, while it also keeps indirect communication with the United States alive. The diplomatic route therefore remains open, even as military rhetoric intensifies. And at the center of the confrontation is the Strait of Hormuz. Iran says talks with Oman over the management of the strategically important waterway are close to an agreement. The discussions focus on establishing a legal framework and determining how commercial vessels move through the strait. Hormuz remains one of the world's most critical energy choke points, and any prolonged disruption threatens global oil supplies and international trade. But Tehran makes it clear that an agreement with Oman does not automatically mean the strait reopens. Iran links the reopening of Hormuz to several other conditions, including compensation from the United States. Tehran also demands changes to the traffic separation scheme previously used by commercial vessels. Iran says the existing arrangement is no longer acceptable, meaning a new route requires further technical and legal discussions. That makes the Hormuz negotiations far more than a technical discussion over shipping routes. The talks form part of the larger geopolitical confrontation between Iran and the United States. Tehran seeks a new framework for commercial shipping, while also demanding political and legal assurances. Oman plays a key role as an intermediary, with the negotiations focused on whether both sides can reach a workable arrangement without resolving the larger Iran-US dispute. Washington also signals progress on the diplomatic front. A US official tells Reuters that Oman and Iran make progress towards an agreement, with a potential deal paving the way for commercial shipping through the strait. Such a development could also help restore oil exports disrupted by the conflict. Washington says it expects a deal soon. The United States also indicates that once commercial shipping resumes without restrictions, it lifts its blockade of Iranian ports. So, the Iran-US crisis unfolds on two very different tracks. Militarily, Tehran warns Washington that any American ground intervention triggers a forceful response, with Iranian troops remaining on high alert along the borders. Diplomatically, indirect messages continue to move between Tehran and Washington, while Oman works to broker progress over the Strait of Hormuz. The key question is whether these diplomatic efforts contain the crisis, or whether the military red lines drawn by both sides push the confrontation into an even more dangerous phase.
They started with just an idea. The world calls it a startup. They call it a labor of love. Some burned out, some broke through, but every single one had a story worth hearing. This is where founders speak without filters, where investors reveal what they actually look for, where failure is just another chapter. Because no matter where the journey takes you, you're always asking the same question: what next?
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to Mirror Now.